Well, you've kind of talked a little bit about Connor McDavid and his contract situation. I guess we'll start maybe an update. And the other thing I guess I would ask is, do you have to make a sales pitch to him at this point? What are the conversations like? Because we're kind of taking the money out of it, we think. So what are the conversations like in trying to get him back?
I think the conversations with Connor are always more, I wouldn't say it's a sales pitch as much as just it's a dialogue when he has questions or I don't want to get into what we talk about, but I think it's more free-flowing conversations. Like I've gotten to know him now. I've been here for a year, and I feel like we can just sit down and talk hockey or talk about things that are on his mind, things about the current team or the future team. And I've done that not just recently, but also throughout the last season. Like I find he's got a real good pulse on the team as well. I mean, as the leader and the captain, I think he has thoughts on things, and I want to understand that so that I can, kind of working together on it. So I would say it's not so much a sales pitch as it is just a conversation, and it goes in a bunch of different directions usually.
I feel like the conversations are more about the next year's team than they are even this year?
Well, it's a blend of that. I would say he does ask me about, like, where do I envision things, so that's a part of it. We talk about this year, too. We talked about, what did we do well last year? What do we think we could change or should change? So I would say it's not limited to just one thing, but it does definitely touch on future.
Have an update on Zack Hyman as we head toward camp and into the season here?
No, I don't. I think we're doing the medicals and stuff today. I'm sure we'll get an announcement out at some point, but I know he's doing well in his rehab. As far as his timeline, though, I don't have that yet.
Hey, Stan. How confident are you that you will get something, Connor, and what gives you that confidence?
Well, I just go by what Connor says, which is he wants nothing more than to win in Edmonton. So, I take him at his word. He's going through his own process, and I think you have to understand that and respect it. And I do. And when he's ready, he'll be ready. So, I realize that's on everyone's mind in the media and the fans, and it's on our mind too. But it's one of those things where we've had multiple conversations, and he's been very consistent with what he's been saying to the media as well as to myself, and so we just kind of go with it from there.
And I want to ask you about the salary cap increasing, and it looks like it'll go from 95 to 100, 113, maybe 120. How does that present the problem with a long-term contract when you have a number, and then that number could increase for a player like Connor who's eligible to get 20% of the cap?
Right. I mean, when I talk to Connor, I've never gotten the impression that he's really focused on money. Like, that's not. So it may be, but I'm just saying when I talk to him, I just don't get that impression that he's all about winning. He never talks about, I need to make this much money. So, I mean, the cap is going up, which I think is, it's great for our league. It shows that the league is healthy and the revenues are growing, and when that happens, salaries escalate. How that exactly relates to Connor, he would be in a better position to answer that one than me. But I think it's obviously better than the cap flatlining or going down. So, yeah.
Stan, you've also got a couple of defensemen, Wallman and Ekholm, going into their last years. Do you wait to see what happens with Connor before you sign them, or what's the progress here?
No, I think we have had sort of preliminary discussions with a bunch of people who are going into their last year of the deal, not just the two you named, but there's other players as well. I don't know if we're going to wrap all those up in the next little bit, or if it'll bleed into the season, or if we'll wait until next year. But we've had a number of players going into the final year of their contracts that we've already engaged with their agents and had positive conversations. Nothing to report as being near the end, but a lot of encouraging discussions. So I don't think one is related to the other.
And in terms of Hyman, if the doctors say, you can't go on the ice, at his age, does it matter when he gets back and skates? He's 33 years old, but he's been in a lot of training camps.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to miss much time if he misses any. So I'm not worried about Zack Hyman, no. I mean, if he doesn't skate for a day or two, that doesn't matter. Like you said, he's a vet, he's a pro. He's going to be, we saw last year how valuable he was, and he's going to be a big player for us this year.
Thank you.
Stan, you have a few new forwards coming in. One of the guys, I know you went and visited him, and he told me in Sweden when you signed Tomasek. Him, he can play center, he can play right wing. Trent Frederic has said he prefers center or right wing over left wing.
Right.
When you have your conversations with Chris, how much of the year is going to be about experimenting with different? You have a lot of guys who can play center or wing.
Right. That's something we've talked a lot about in the last few days, actually, leading into going on the ice tomorrow. I think we want to give a few different looks and see how it goes. I think David Tomasek has been a very good center, and but he can play wing. I think he's probably more of a natural center, and he's a righty, which we don't have a lot of those. We got Lazar and Philp, and Tomasek are the three centers that shoot right. So, and we didn't really have that element last year. And Derek Ryan didn't play a big role, so we had all lefties. So I'm excited to see how David. I mean, David has looked very good in the captain skates, in which I try not to put too much positive or negative in that, but I think it does stand out when you watch him. He can shoot the puck. He can really, I'm not surprised that he led the Swedish league in goal scoring. He's got a knack for getting open. He's got the ability to get the puck off his stick quickly and in the net. So I think that's an intriguing option for us. But then the other side of it is, he's got that offensive flair. He could be a good winger for one of the top centers too. So I think we are going to see how that looks over the next 2 weeks here. And not just him, like you said, we've got, Nuge has played a lot of center, but also a lot of wing lately. I think he's probably able to do both. But I think, we like him in the middle, and I think we're definitely going to try him there. Not that we need to try him out. It's not that he can't play center. It's more how do the wingers match with the other centers. So that's what the next 2 weeks is really going to be about for me and for our coaches, is to see how the pieces come together.
On the blue line, Ekholm Bouchard seems an obvious one. Wallman and Nurse played very limited together, but when they did, they played well. Do you kind of put them, are they more in pen as a potential duo to start the season, Wallman and Nurse?
I think that's pretty likely that's going to be the case. I think in talking to Jake at the end of last year about playing right or left, because, we have just the two righties in Emerson, Stetcher, and Bouch. The guys who play a lot of the minutes, we're trying to find out who's the best partner for Darnell. And last year, Stetch did a very good job at that, so I'm not overlooking that. But Jake indicated that he loves to play left or right. He just prefers to sort of stay wherever he is. So if he's going to play on right, then he'd probably rather just stay there, and then he can get more acclimated. But the way that Jake moves around on the offensive blue line with the puck, and he's got a really good one-timer, it's nice to have him on the offside as a threat. So I think there's a good chance that he and Darnell will be together.
You okay?
Yeah.
You've been in the goalie market for a long time and not really pulled the trigger on anything. Now you start a new season with the guys that were here last year. I guess I would ask you to characterize, how do you approach your goalies? I mean, I think the hockey world is aware that there was an attempt to improve in the goaltending here. It never happened. You're going back with the same guys. How do you, what do you say to Stu Skinner? How do you send him out there with confidence when you've been trying to improve on him, perhaps?
I think that's just part of the game, though. I think it maybe gets more attention because there's only two goalies on a team, as opposed to we're trying to improve our team. You could make the same argument when you bring a new defenseman in, does it get the other defenseman? I guess the difference is a lot of defensemen play at the same time and only one goalie plays. I don't think that's an issue for, at least in my conversations with Stu. He hasn't mentioned that. And I just really like his attitude coming in. I think he trained hard this summer, and he looks to have like a refreshed approach to the year. We have a new goalie coach, and he and Peter really seem to have formed a bond together. They spent a lot of time this summer, just talking hockey, and there's a great vibe around that right now. And I think that was something I thought about was, he's a talented goalie, and when he's at his best, he's really good. So if we can get the consistency in Stu's game, and I think maybe sometimes a different voice could help tap into that. And I think, the early returns are very positive. We haven't even skated yet in training camp, though, so we'll see where it goes. But I'm optimistic. I think that this is a new year. I don't want to live in the past, and then Pick had a great season last year, ultimate competitor, wins big games for us. So we're always monitoring it. I mean, the goaltending position is no different than the forwards. We're on the lookout. If there's a ability to upgrade on that, we'll do it. But I think the focus right now is let's see with a bit of a different approach heading in if we can capture more consistency with Stu.
So if you could suffer one more Connor McDavid question, I apologize in advance.
That's all right.
People are live streaming, watching this press conference with grave concern, watching to find out what you're saying about Connor McDavid. Our bosses, certainly my boss phoned me this morning, said, find out what's going on with Connor McDavid, the entire country, the hockey world, certainly this city and the fan base. What would you say, like, you're a pro, I know you're not freaking out and you're not all nervous and losing sleep here. A lot of fans are. What would you say from your experience to the fans that could let them try to just chill a little on this thing?
It's hard. I get it. I understand that. There's a lot of anxious or anxiety, whatever the word is, anxiousness. I think I trust what Connor says. I mean, really, at the end of the day, when Connor says there's nothing that he wants more is to win in Edmonton, I believe him. I don't know why anyone else wouldn't. Like, he's been consistent in saying that, and I love hearing it when he says that's his singular focus is to win in Edmonton. So for me, I take it at face value, and I have no reason to question him. So, and I understand why he wants to go through. Whenever you're making a big decision, you want to make sure it has to feel right. And whenever that moment comes, maybe it's going to be 2 days from now or 3 days from now or 2 weeks from now, whenever it is, then he'll be ready. And I think until that happens, me asking him that or saying anything is not going to change that. It's up to Connor, and I understand that.
You talked about wanting to integrate some young players, and you've got a couple in Savoy and Howard. I guess I would ask, in your mind, are their names in pencil or pen? Like, do they have to play their way off the team at this point? Where their kind of status?
That's a good question. I haven't really looked at it like that. I guess we've been talking the last year that the desire to break some younger players in and bring some speed and enthusiasm into our lineup, and I think both Savoy and Howard have those attributes to their game. So I would say that we're hopeful that they're going to come in and have a good camp, and so I think, I guess it depends on how you look at it. I'm looking at it with an optimistic lens, saying that I think they're going to bring an element that we need on our team, and I think we want some of that. And you have to be willing with younger players to give them a little bit of latitude. And I think this is probably the time where we're at with those two. So it's not a definitive answer, but I think I'm looking at it more optimistically, thinking that the expectations will be high for both of them, but we're going to try to work with that and recognize that the players they are in October is not the players they're going to be in March. And I think you have to allow for some progression over the season. And as long as they're bringing the effort, I think our coaches are excited to work with both of them.
If this question catches you a little off guard, you were asked about goaltending earlier, and there's a player who's now a free agent and come out, and that's Carter Hart. Wonder if there's any consideration into signing him.
No, I like right now we're not looking at those types of situations. I really like I referenced earlier to Mark, I like where Stu's at with his the way he trained and his outlook coming into the year. So I think we're gonna go forward with that.
Stan, we talked last year about not trying to win this year's Stanley Cup with last year's team.
Right.
Last year, some of the guys admitted it was harder to turn the page. And this year, we get a sense that they've been able to do that a little easier for whatever reason. Maybe it's the second time is a little easier to get over. Mm-hmm. How are you seeing the team going into the season having been able to, turn the page a little easier than maybe they did a year ago?
I think a couple things are going to. I agree with you. I think it's a little different. I think we have a different staff too, which is there's a lot of newness to our group. We have a new goalie coach, we have a new skills coach, new assistant coach, and we have some new players, younger players coming in. So I think that combination of factors has made it. I don't know if that's why it's been that. I don't know if the players, instinctively feel differently because of that, but I think that plays a role. Like this really is much different than it was a year ago. Like a year ago it was more we're trying to just go back and do the same thing. We're so close. Now we've got a lot of new players, we've got new coaches, we've got sort of a different outlook on things, and I think I do believe, I've said this a few times, I think change is good, and I think bringing some new ideas to the table, that's not disparaging the people that were here before. I just think when you have the same group for such a long time, sometimes you're too close to it, and you bring in some new voices from outside that they're not biased by anything. They're just coming in fresh, and so I think we'll see that even with the way we utilize our special teams. I think we'll see some different looks tactically, and we're not going to be a way different team, but I do think we're going to play some things differently, which then as a player, you feel like, well, this is different, and you're focused more on where we're headed, not where we came from.
Stan, looking at the young guys, Savoy and Howard, you're a cup contending team. It's hard for rookies to make cup contending teams. What will you need to see, do you think, from those guys to crack this lineup?
Well, on the one hand, I agree it's hard, but on the other hand, I actually think it's good to have some youthful enthusiasm because I've referenced this before. Like they haven't played. I mean, Savoy's played a couple games in the NHL, but like every new building he goes to is like a new experience. He's like just excited to go play a road game in Calgary. He's never been there before and played for the Oilers. So. Same thing with Ike. He's never played in any NHL building. So I think what we're looking for from them is, and I think some of that youthful enthusiasm, it can be contagious to our group. And I think it's a tough year. It's a grind getting through the 82 games. So having some players that haven't experienced it before, for them, for our team, it may just be a random Tuesday night in November. But for them, it's like they're excited. This is like their big moment. They get to play in Madison Square Garden, right off the hop. So I think that, and I've just seen it with other teams I've been on. The other guys sort of, not that you get jaded, but when you've been in the league for 10 or 15 years, it's not the same level of excitement as when you first started. So I think, what can they do on the ice? Like I think they bring a lot of flair to the game. Offensively, they are dangerous players with the puck, and they make things happen. They can bring you out of your seat. They're guys that are going to be contributing offensively to our team. So I think that's where we'll see it. And, of course, there's going to be a learning curve because they're playing against much better players now than they were in the American League or in the NCAA. So everything that they were able to do last year will be harder. But the flip side is they're going to be playing with much better players than they were playing with. So, where does that net out? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I think we're looking for them to, with anything, I tell these young players, like, your effort and your attitude is really what you can control. Like the execution, at the end of the day, you want them to execute. But as long as they bring the effort and the determination, which I think both of them will, then I think the coaches can live with the growing pains.
Dan, what was your reasoning to give Frederic an 8-year contract so quickly after he was traded for and then was hurt in the playoffs?
That was really a factor with just the overall picture of what Freddie brings to the table. So he's a younger free agent, so 27 years old. The ability to play multiple positions, the type of player that he is. If you look around the league, they're in pretty short supply. So as a result, that plays into when you're negotiating with them. If we had chosen not to pursue Freddie, or if we couldn't get a deal done, it's not like there was 10 other guys that are pretty equivalent players. We'll just get one of them instead. So I think he's got a unique skill set that's in short supply. So when that's the case, then you have to look at what your options are. You're always looking at, well, what if we don't sign him? We didn't have to sign him, but we felt that it made sense based on also his character. Like he's a very important guy to the fabric of our team, and in a short amount of time, he brings an element that we don't have a lot of, and I think he brings an element that's important to winning, which is that competitive intimidation factor, and on top of that, he can play center or wing, and he's comfortable moving around the lineup. So I'm expecting good things out of him now that he's feeling much better.
One more from me. With no draft picks, was your reasoning we got to sign a whole pile of Europeans and stuff like that to fill out at least the minor league roster and then see where they go from there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just European players. I think it's free agent players. But, there's a lot of different ways to do it in the NHL. I think some teams are focused all on draft picks, and there's nothing wrong with that strategy. But where we are in our evolution as a team, we're trying to, those draft picks that you utilize are unless you're picking in the top 5, those guys aren't going to help you for a couple of years. So it's a trade-off. We're bringing guys in that can help us right away, whether it's Wallman or guys like that. They're going to help our team compete right now. So how do you backfill it so that you still have players that are growing in their development? And that's the approach that I think makes the most sense right now. Maybe it won't always be that way, but for now, with what we want to do and with our player development group having really taken a bigger role, it's important to get the talent from wherever we can, whatever age they are, and then seeing if they, in a year or two, can, become the players we want them to be.
And one last one, Regula. You didn't get the chance to see him last year. What did you see in him to pick him up on waivers in the first place?
Yeah, I had traded for Alec, excuse me, when I was in Chicago, so I'm familiar with his talent. It's probably more based on potential. Like I think he's only played over 20 games in the NHL, so it's a very small sample. But we think developmentally, he's got a lot of likable characteristics. He's only 25, and it was unfortunate that he had to work through that injury last year, and he's feeling great right now. He's a big right-handed defenseman with some skill, and he can play the game a couple different ways, whether it's the penalty kill or power play. He's kind of got some versatility there. So I think he's someone we need to get him back playing, so we need to watch him grow. But I think I'm optimistic. I think he's got a chance. When you look at his skill set, when he gets his game back after being out for a bit, I think he'll be a useful player for us.